Hello, welcome to the Health, Vengeance and Harmonies podcast. My name is Leonardo Muller-Rodriguez. I'm a PhD student exploring the intersection between neuroscience, music, therapy, and sleep. Today, I'm honored to have the Earth Echo Collective joining the podcast today, and we'll be learning a lot about relaxation, sound healing, and etc., which is their speciality. Just a quick introduction to the inspiration of the podcast, which might interest you. It's based on René Girard. Have you heard of that philosopher by any chance? His he has this concept called mimetic desire, which he suggests as a underlying force for social interactions and social emotions, which means that humans desire to imitate the desires of others, and that's the guiding principle in his view. And I find it a nice comprehensive concept where on the positive end of this force there's compassionate healing and empathetic behaviors, whereas on the negative side of this spectrum there are rivalries and scapegoating that can come from towards the people that are similar to us. So with this, I'm very honored to have the Earth Echo Collective here in the podcast, and we have pretty much a full team today. And before saying what is the Earth Echo Collective, I'd love to hear the story. Well, first, what is the Earth Echo Collective? And we can start by who you are individually, starting with Phan and Francisco, the co-founders.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Leonardo. And it's great to have us on here, so appreciate it. So so it started off with me and Francisco, but really I think we see all of us as co-founders. So back in 2018, we were invited to play on a 360 dome called Polygon stage, which is a 360 immersive stage placed into like a festival called Wonderfruit, and they were still developing what they were doing. And I had just been practicing with Francisco for a few years. I went into sound healing after going through sort of a bit of an awakening after practicing deep meditation for a long period of time, recovering from trauma and grief. And I saw the benefits of what it was doing for me, and it led me to sound healing. And then I was introduced to Francisco, and then we were accidentally pulled into spatial audio. And from there, we met Axel, who was a field recordist working with Ambisonic field recordings of nature. And we wanted to merge two worlds together after working on the Polygon stage. Francisco and I developed that with him for a little bit, and then we had Eduardo come on board. But I'll let also Francisco speak as well.
No? Okay. So yeah, first of all, thank you, Leonardo. Very glad to be here, all of us together. So yeah, my upbringing, it was musical in my house, so all of us played music. And then from, let's say, 2003, I started my massage career, going to healing and Reiki, and so practiced like deep tissue and sports massage, so really into it. And then I was meditating quite a lot by the time I came across sound healing session. So that healing session was mind-blowing for me. It was just like, I knew I was going to do it. I was going to do it in the future. It was a connection with my two passions. It was the music, come from a family, the therapist, and yeah, so been a few years practicing here and there, doing events. I've done events like the All Night Combat for a couple of years. I've done things with yoga, so finally found fun. And then we started this journey together that felt so natural, so encouraging, so challenging as well, learning so many things, so very nurturing.
Amazing. Wow. So sound healing and massage therapy and meditation all coming together between you two. And I'd love to hear Eduardo's and Daniel's stories as well, which are also very interesting backgrounds. So Eduardo, you can start off.
Yeah. And again, thanks Leonardo for inviting us to share our story here and have this conversation. Same as Francisco, I had a very musical sort of childhood. My family playing music all the time, especially in Christmas. We'll go around relative houses, singing all the Christmas songs. And then decided to study cinema, did documentaries all over the world, a lot of independent material. And then music was always there. And I've always kind of played here and there, trying to learn new instruments. And then I met Francisco and Phan, and I thought it was an interesting thing to explore. There was also Axel at the time, and the whole combining nature and unconventional instruments. I mean, you have also conventional instruments, but also these gongs and these frequencies were really captivating. So I was like, let's join, let's see what we can do. And now it's been quite a few years. It's progressed in a very interesting way, and let's see what the next months bring.
It's fantastic. So you also have a musician, multi-instrumentalist as well, upbringing. And also, I do want to mention that an interesting aspect of your documentary work has been focused on human rights, right? Or social justice. That has been what you mentioned as...
That was... I mean, I was born in the Canaries, an island, very like one way, probably way of thinking. And I wanted to just, cross the border, see what's going on in the world, and I'm still exploring around 30 years later, sort of thing, 25 years later. The music is pretty much self-taught. I guess I have some sort of ADHD. I just keep trying to learn a new instrument without mastering one, but I guess it's the way it is. But it's fun. Yeah.
Amazing. It's really good. Thank you, Eduardo. Daniel, who are you?
Yes, maybe from self-taught we can go from the maybe over academic guy. In fact, I was into music from very early on as well. I think we are all musicians here, and since I started first in Barcelona, then I went to Paris Conservatoire. I was really interested into music and composition. In fact, I did physics as a side thing, meaning the research is being part of me the whole time. But I did, in fact, after Paris Conservatoire, a PhD in research music, in fact, in King's College in London. And then while I write in London, I met Phan. That was through a common friend as well, who was composer, meaning everything stayed kind of like very close. And my research into composition just lead to more, in fact, more therapeutic means of using music. Because in my research, it was more focused on how music can be structured in terms of meaning, or kind of like universal meaning. I was interested in something called temporal semiotic units. That's very abstract things, but I think it's just part of it. I think music, it touches the well-being in other levels, and even physical, and that's something I really wanted to explore, because as a musician, you feel it while you play music. You are a musician, you know that something is happening with your body as well. But I think it's very good to do research in that domain, because we are going to find, probably, I'm very certain in the next years, that there's lots of things we can do with music and sound that needs to be in the scope of health in general terms. Now we have to even change the whole paradigm, I think, and understand that sound and music can be almost as essential as other medications or things, or even probably in some extent even better, because there's no side effects or things like this. Meaning, yes, that's what it bring me to join this amazing collective and do things together.
Yes, it's been a while since me and Daniel actually saw one another.
Yeah.
And I heard about spatial audio years ago with Aircam developing the software for it with Max MSP. I wasn't musical. I played a few instruments when I was younger, but I'm probably the least musical out of the lot. But for me, it was accidental into it. and I did study yoga, did yoga teacher training and meditation, and it was all for my own benefit. And then when Axel left, we needed somebody with that spatial audio knowledge, which Daniel brings to the table. And I think the four of us make a complementing group.
Sounds really a complementary group. I can tell. And no, thank you so much, Joel, for the introductions. And I mean, you just mentioned this concept, Daniel, temporal semiotic units. I didn't know about that, but it sounds like a very important aspect. Is how meaning is portrayed through music, if that's what I understand, and the units of that. And you're talking about spatial audio or ambisonics, Phan.
Yes.
And this is a very important part of your vision as the Earth Echo Collective and your technical process. I mean, we can just touch upon this aspect, your vision, and how you create this this music using spatial for a brief moment. Yeah,
yeah, I can say a little bit about that. So basically, I mean, like I said, I didn't know how much spatial audio was going to be such a huge feature in what we were doing. Well, in my life in general. And then as I went into sound healing, Polygon came into my life, which I was doing a lot of, because I'm a designer as well by trade. Cool. So I started developing a brand with them, with all the work that they were doing in immersive technology. And I was also just qualified and practicing as a sound healer. And they were interested in what I was doing. So then they invited us to do that for the first time with Francisco, and then a second time with Axel. And usually, you know, with spatial audio, it's basically in 3D space. We're listening to sounds coming from multiple directions rather than how we usually listen to music through stereo, 2 channels. And this creates a richer experience. And we really wanted to bring that into what we were doing, especially with nature sounds. When we go and sit in nature, you know, hearing different bird sounds from different directions, or, you know, sounds of the elements from the earth. It really immerses us and it does something to our senses. So we felt that was a huge part of what we needed to bring to what we were doing with Earth Echo. And so the field recordings we're sourcing meant that we needed to find really amazing field recordists who are really passionate about bringing nature sounds to people. So we then started, Eduardo did a lot of research into finding people. I'll let him speak about it, but I know that Daniel can also comment on this area as well.
Fantastic.
Yes, but basically Ambisonics, Ambisonics was one of the, it's one of the ways you can approach 3D audio, that it goes, it's almost like the more experimental, most research used, because it's kind of like the pure access to this, to the spatial audio.
You said Amos? You said another? No, Ambisonic is the most researched, sorry. I'm not sure if I heard that.
Yes. There's of course there are more in the market. There are half others that are being basically developed for cinema, that basically are more related to the certain amount of loudspeakers. But Ambisonic is the one who is like purely description of what's happening around us, and then it's the way, kind of the purest in a way to use. But at the end, I think we are limited to have to decide if we are going to create a binaural rendering of these ambisonics. Ambisonics is just this space where the sound is going to be as realistic as possible. We approach the maximum what would be the real experience of being in the forest, or a real experience of being surrounded by these gongs or instruments that we put in the scene. And of course, it has a deeper effect than a stereo that we are limited until now.
Sure.
Yeah, that's for example, as an example, that what you would do in a room, but we create some installation where the sound is really trying to surround us as much as possible. We are going to talk later, maybe you're asking Frank how we do the installations, or how we do the retreats, or the special events for people to feel the sound in their bodies as well as experiencing the effect of a realistic effect of being surrounded by nature. Yes, Ambisonic is technique, but yeah. I think the therapeutic effects are beyond the invented technique.
Interesting. So you just the fact of being immersed in this 3D sound, as you say, replicates being in a natural environment, as you say, Phan, and having proper field recordings, as Eduardo had to find the person for this, is very important to be completely immersed in this natural environment that can be, you believe, Daniel, even more therapeutic, which makes sense. I mean, because it sounds like you're more in an environment that our body has been evolved for, compared to just headphones. But yeah, Eduardo, if you want to speak about the field recordings.
Yes, I'll briefly share that, and also just a testimonial from a friend that sort of explains really well the immersive experience, how far it can get. So basically, the field recording, we thought we could obviously go around the world and record these beautiful locations, but obviously we realized that there's, like, when you discover a new universe, then there's a lot of people already there doing a lot of beautiful things, and we managed to collaborate with a few people there on our website as well. And then I actually got we got a bit of basic equipment, Phan as well, and I've experienced myself trying to hunt these sounds, and it's one of the best experiences I've had, I guess, because it combines solitude with nature and hiking and waiting and being patient, and it humbles you down a lot.
Interesting.
I went to a location in the Canary Islands looking for this specific bird called pardela. I was waiting for 2 hours, walking up a cliff, nothing. And I give up. I just saw tourists just looking at me like, what is this guy doing, sitting there for hours, doing nothing? So I just packed equipment, closed the car, and just on cue, the moment I closed the door, boom, I heard the first one, and then it was like hundreds of them. So I went back and recorded, and it was fascinating. And just about the immersive, I have this friend, and she likes our tracks genuinely a lot. And she said she was in the bathtub I think she was listening to Acadia, and she's like, it was so immersive that for a moment she felt she had to grab the handle of the bathtub. She felt she was like, when you're sleeping and you suddenly do like this little,
you tweak a bit.
But she was safe in the bathtub, having a nice bath, but she still felt like she was flying around the jungle or something like that. So.
Okay, very immersive, and she was imagining and being transported emotionally and through images.
Just felt it, and that's, I think, what we get to later. It's about the experience, the sensorial experience. Yeah.
Amazing. Is this the ideal view you were looking for when you were doing it?
They're really difficult to find, actually. A friend that was shooting for TV in the Canaries as well, he said they spent 2 weeks trying to get them, to capture them. So they're
great.
Really, the sound is really, really interesting. They sound like angry grandmothers or something like that. I don't know how you describe it, how you imagine that. I'll send you a little snippet so you can see.
I think we've yet to use those recordings, though. We haven't quite
Not yet, because they're really intense.
Interesting. I mean, there must be a place to put it, to have a therapeutic goal for it. Sometimes we want to. Some experiences. I mean, you all know, in terms of music, you can be relaxed, or you can be or dancing to it, for instance. So maybe there's a part of the journey where more intense music in your sound journey or intense sounds can come in place. And if it's rightly positioned, it can provide a good impact. I just want to mention right now that you have this YouTube channel where you put your recordings, and they're immersive, they're very natural, they're very calming, and you have different themes that you have here. This one's a didgeridoo. This one is in some recordings in, I don't know where this forest is. Canada, it says that. Yeah. So Yeah, so you can experience at home your work. Earth Echo's work can be experienced at home through your YouTube channel. Yeah, so
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, we decided to do it because, I mean, we are all in different places. I mean, I live in West Midlands. It's very hard to do events all the time. It's actually really exhausting carrying all these instruments and organizing events all the time. We wanted people to have access to this as much as possible, and doing it through their headphones at home when they need it was the best thing for it. Um, so yeah, we create these binaural tracks for people to just escape into nature. I think, you know, so much of us we're surrounded by sound all the time, and there's nourishing sounds and there's aggressive sounds, and they do things to our senses, our emotional body, our mental well-being. We're bombarded by technology, and for us, the reason why we created Earth Echo was to have these spaces where people can, really be in nature. And how often is it that we are able to go into a place and really just hear nature sounds? You're always going to hear an airplane or a car whizzing by, or machinery happening, and it's whenever you're in these sort of spaces in nature that there's this sort of godly sense with the universe, and this beautiful connection that you can hear yourself actually think as your true self. So being in nature is having access to the inner worlds and the true voice that we will have, and very rarely are able to access, because we're always having interactions, we're working, we have busy lives. And it's those moments that are really precious that gives us all these treasures, that allow us to have insights into our life. So it's those reflective moments, and I think that's very rare for us to access these days. So that's why we created these tracks and put it out there into the world, so that people can access them as much as they can when they can. Yeah. So for me as well, like someone that had a lot of trauma growing up, and also processing grief, meditation, there's the moments in nature that really healed me, and finding those moments were really, really precious. And creating Earth Echo meant it was creating a community where we can engage with people in a way that feels nourishing. And then we also try and give back to the planet as well. So all our tracks are linked to an Earth cause. So there's this circular economy happening where, we're creating these experiences, but they're also giving back to the habitats where the field recordings come from.
that's amazing. Yeah, that's a very interesting approach in terms of giving back a percentage of your earnings. And Phan, thank you so much for opening up. This is very beautiful, that the way you're describing how nature can actually allow for inner activity to bring to its maybe coherence, or one way to put it like that, one way to describe it. And you also mentioned there was a very important meditative experience in your journey. You're a Reiki practitioner. We had a Reiki practitioner come over in the podcast a few episodes ago. And I don't understand much about chakras, but there's a strong link in Reiki and sound healing practitioners with chakras. I'm not sure if actually Kundalini's is the same thing as chakras, but you
Yes, it
mentioned this.
is.
Okay, cool. Okay, good to know. So you've mentioned this was a very important experience. And you describe it using this type of words, Kundalini and chakra. Do you mind expanding on that? Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I met Eduardo before anyone else, and he knew me during a period I was going through processing my grief. And during that period, I had a lot of trauma and grief from my family, and my personal life related to work, relationships, and family. My whole world collapsed, and I was living my life, I was doing my job, and everything was just too much. Everything happened at the same time. I won't go into details because it's all very personal. But it was a very traumatic time. My body started to break out in rashes. and my body was full of grief, and I needed to process it, but I was just living my life, you know, and it was and I needed space. And I started to do meditation. I was always a yoga practicer. I loved yoga. Yoga was the one thing that I always would go to, and it would help process my emotions. If I had a hard day, I'd just go on the mat and I'll go into a flowing meditation, and it squeezes the energy, the tension that we build up in our body from the myofascial tissues that we have all over us, which is like a huge organ, and that stores our emotions, you know. And I really experienced that with yoga, and through yoga it is a meditation. So I went deeper into meditation, and I would practice during a period I was really practicing deeply. I would do it sunrise. I'd set an intention. I'd do 1 hour or 20 minutes before I start my day, because before I used to wake up and rush my day, you know. I'd be like, oh, I've got to get to work and I'm going to be late, and all these things. They're really silly things, really, you know, and they cause a lot of cortisol to run through our body and stress, you know. And it was through meditation that I was able to hear myself and say, these things don't really matter, you know. I'm grieving. I need to create space for myself. So it was during that period that I did deep meditation, and I was living a very clean diet at the time, you know. It was vegan, eating a lot of raw juices, because my father was he passed away from cancer. And it was during that phase that I was looking into health and diet. And then I went vegan. I started juicing. I did smoothies. I did mainly plant-based. And during that period, I was doing a lot of meditation, and I felt very light in my body. And it was during this period that I started to have visions during my meditations. And, you know, it went so deep to the point that, like, one night I woke up through processing all this trauma and, you know, healing my hands. It was like my body was releasing trauma through my body, you know, so it was reacting. And one night I even woke up to my pineal gland bursting, like it was like a star bursting in the middle of my head, basically. And I had shivers and stuff like this. And this was all practicing yoga, meditation, and I was feeling it energetically in my body. And I started to hear voices, and this is what then told me how to study sound healing. And it was during a phase whenever my hands started to heal. One day I woke up and I just felt there was pure golden light surrounding me. And this voice said to me, you have to study sound healing. And I saw colors I'd never seen before. And it was during that period I was listening to sound healing music, chants, just silencing, changing my auditory space, if that makes sense. I wasn't watching the news. I was literally changing my whole narrative through sound. And then I experienced the world in a different way. So it was like this deep inner listening that then helped me to sort of process my trauma, and then have this beautiful divine connection with the universe, if that makes sense. And then all of these things to do with sound came into my life, and I realized that, you know, an important aspect of it all is that so often we don't create space for ourselves and listen to ourselves. During that phase, I was doing a lot of what everyone else was telling me to do in the world. You know, how much was it? Everything I was doing was what I actually really wanted to do from a heart space, you know, from the heart place. And I think in life, in this world where there's so much war and poverty and struggle and suffering, there's so much stuff that we do in this world that's sort of like goes against what we truly believe as human beings, you know. And it was through all of this practice that I was able to sort of see the truth of it all, and it helped me to realign my life again and actually follow a path and create Earth Echo with these beautiful people and do something beautiful instead of like going down this commercial route and you know, following what the world is telling us to do, you know, go and work and pay your taxes and yeah. But actually it really means something to us as human beings to have that connection with community and putting something beautiful out into the world rather than adding more to the chaos around us. So that was my story with it. But it really taught me the importance of energetics, you know, how sensitive we are as people. And I think we're all very numb from that, you know, and sound is able to bring us back to ourselves. And it all links into, it all links back to, you know, energy, Reiki, sound.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. There's a lot of rich information going there, and I'm just going to briefly show Kundalini, and there's a, you know, this gives an idea brief for anyone who, like me, who's just thinking, oh, there's a link with chakras. Seems to be more of a divine, feminine approach, apparently. And just speaking about fascia, I think is a good transition to ask Francisco, because you're also a sound healer, and well, you mentioned you mentioned fascia being contracting with stress, which is a sort of how we can be flexible with our body. And I saw this really cool video, Francisco, you might be familiar, where they're teaching some martial arts where people say if you try to contract your muscles and do the movement, you'll be slower than if you just kind of relax and react in that way, which was suggesting the use of fascia. But you're a massage therapist as well as a sound healer, so I'd love to hear your approach to your Therco collective.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are two different worlds that collide together, you know. But yeah, it's true that, I mean, when I went to do massage for the first time, I went because, I don't know, it just called me. And then when I started doing it, you know, it was kind of ticking all the boxes, you know, so all the anatomy, physiology, all these, because I like a lot science, you know, and chemical and things, you know. But when I started touching people and seeing from beginning, before the treatment and after the treatment, the face was changed, and many people, well, not a lot, but sometimes people was crying. Many times it happens that when some tension is released from the fascia, from the muscles themselves, people tend to talk, you know, things that have kept inside, you know, so it's like things are unblocked. Things are stored in the fascia and the muscles, you know, and this when it releases, you know, is it's feeling freedom, let's say, feeling freedom, same as when meditating and we have a realization, an insight, a eureka moment. It makes us, let's say, we get into this state in which it's more equanimous and we're not reacting so much. So we are able to see, like my brother says, the eagle view. You see things with perspective, you know, so not reacting fully with it. And what we are looking for, I guess.
That's very interesting. How your massage work also releases visions and just releasing tension through your massage work does that. And I'm sure you've seen parallels with your sound healing experiences. And I mean, I'd love to hear more of that because you have one workshop called Psychedelic Gong. I'm not sure if you incorporate psychedelics or if it's just the idea that of using sound. Yeah, because it's not yet legal here. But
it was called Psychedelic Gone Bath because we were working through the Psychedelic Society. This.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Nice. But there's a lot of links between how you opening the mind with sound, for instance, and psychedelics. There's the neuroscience alliance. I'd love to hear any more about that, Francisco, and then we would love to hear the perspective from Daniel on all of these topics we've discussed as well. Francisco, if you want to add about the sound healing, I'd love to, if there's any link with what you've seen in terms of releasing tension in the people who
completely. Everything is in the mind and in the emotions, and then what happens is with the sound healing, we enter into this calmness, and within that calmness, we start to listen better. It's like the same thing as when we are in the world with all this technology, all these things to do, we are not really present many times. So with the sound healing, with the massage, with the meditation, or just the intention of being present, is like, I compare it many times. You know, when you look under the bed, if you haven't swept the bed or under the sofa, and you look, and then you see a bit of fluff. Okay, so if you decide to put a torch through, you can see much more.
Right.
So it's magnifying. So basically, what happens when we are relaxing, when we are entering the space of the heart and then quieting the mind, we can find those things that are uncomfortable, situations that maybe we need to solve with some people, conversations that we need to have, patterns of behavior that are not pleasant and are not doing anything good for us. Excuse me a second, I need to drink.
Sure. I'll drink too.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it's the same thing. So basically, it's a magnifying glass that allows us to see ourselves in the most equanimous way possible.
Amazing. So sounds allows you to magnify yourself. That's the message I hear.
Yeah,
that's a really interesting insight. And I love the insight here. The complements between sound healing is unlocking visions, experiences from, let's say, a sound perspective or emotional, mental perspective. There's a bit of physical, I guess, with the vibrations, but here messages was giving you from the body to the emotions. And Daniel, I'd love to hear what you think in terms of researching these energy practices and your experience with the ERCAM, which is a very big Parisian music research center, and your physics background. How do you see all of this from a scientific lens and musical lens?
Yes, that's a good question. It involves many domains. I think, yeah, from the musical perspective, it touches the inner hearing, but from the outside side, IRCAM is not really interested in sound healing. I never heard anything from them. They are more interested in how the sound is produced, how it can be analyzed, how it can be disintegrated, like scientifically, kind of can find the components of sound, try to replicate sound. For example, the tools that we are using for binaural, for specialization, they are IRCAM developed. But I think my interest from the physics perspective, because is that as many physicists, they are arriving to the conclusion that the universe is vibration. I think many of them, they are realizing as well that all this vibration basically can be condensed in matter and can be condensed in energy, but still vibration is really the essence of everything. That in reality is a very old knowledge, because we know all the old cultures. They mentioned that the first thing that ever appeared was vibration. It was Om. It was even in the Judeo-Christian origin. You know, the first was the word. The word is the sound. Meaning, we know. In fact, for very many years, that sound is the essence of everything. Sound in the perspective of vibration. Then I think more research has to be done. I think some research is start being done, the effects of sound in physical body as well. I think many of this research we're gonna have to be related to what frequencies are related with each organ or each which part of the cell, for example, has been discovered. The cells, in fact, they need certain frequencies to be there. More is going to be more in detail, I think, in health ways when I realize that our body needs this coherent sound, this coherent frequency environment somehow, and that's probably what happens as well with when we live in this life so chaotic lives, is that this coherent environment is not there anymore. It's not only our mind that not able to cope with it; it's our body as well and our organs as well. They are not able to cope with this. Pollution, yeah, you can call it pollution, and I think it goes into the domain of electromagnetic pollution, because we are surrounded as well with electromagnetic radiation, that changes the state of our cells, and the chemistry in our cells is depending on that as well. Meaning sound helps to somehow orient those things. I think this is a hard link. This has to be again research and proven in detail, and that's why research is needed. That's why I think you're gonna probably contribute to that as well, and to see the link between how sound can interact as well with the inner physiological states of the body. We know that the mind is very powerful in that extent. That's why I think the mental states are very important, because that can contribute to help that inner, but as well, even the passive sitting in a room surrounded by sound has an effect, because our organs of perception will go beyond our ears. In fact, our cells, our body is organs of perception, and sound is one of the best first in kind of more direct, because we know we are being born. In fact, one of the best developed senses we know is the ear more than our eyes, for example. That's why our ear and sound is one of the basic senses that to tune, as we were saying, and to tune with the environments. And we know electromagnetic is going to interact as well with there's some therapies related with light, for example, that is being have a very good results, and magnetic fields, meaning if everything touches in understanding that our body is more than just physical machine that has chemistry as basic. Yeah. I think it goes beyond that.
That's a fascinating insight and rant that I think is very important. It makes me think a few things. First, yes. Cymatics, this research of visualizing the sound frequencies, which can go in line with cells and how they, I guess, I'm not sure which research you're thinking about. It makes me think of Michael Levin's work, where
yes.
He's looked at, well, it's not exactly sound, but he looks at electrical patterns and how the coherence of the electrical patterns of each cell represents its direction of what type of cell it should be, or if it's not acting very well. So morphogenetics. Yes, and exactly. Just a very good book that I really liked in terms of, I don't know if you've read this book, but it says how physics is vibrations all the way down, and it takes also a historical philosophical approach. I really like this book. I see you nodding, Eduardo, and I'm sure if that's because you know it, or I can't hear you.
No, I just find it interesting, so I'm just taking a mental note.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great. Really good book. Phan, you wanted to add something?
Well, it's just because Daniel was mentioning, you mentioned so the world is sound, and the word from God, and actually it just really correlates back to an experience I had when during the process of going through this Kundalini awakening of feeling energy being shifted through my body. I woke up this one morning and I had this primordial being sung out of my throat, and I just witnessed it happening. And this is another thing, we talk about the physiological impacts on our body through sound, and you can literally feel through all these different practices and through sound that is moving energy through the body, and I actually experienced something profound through that, so, and it was when that happened to me, it really made me question what was that, and it really just really highlighted, the world is sound and it's moving us all the time, so once he mentioned that, I just had to sort of highlight that, what's it actually doing to us physiologically,
That's a very interesting kind of bridges to my next question. So my question here is that all of these healing experiences, that sound healing, your experiences, Phan, that you've gone through, Francisco's work, and this the approach that all of you guys are having, and the science behind that Daniel was mentioning. It seems to me, but maybe I have a narrow approach, and it would be also to hear from your perspectives. Maybe the question is a bit narrow, but these therapeutic healing experiences seem to bring visions and sensorial experiences that are beyond our immediate physical environment, as if the sound takes us away from what's happening in the immediate physical environment. And I don't know, I thought about this aspect of visions, Eduardo, I wanted to start with you to answer that question, because you're a filmmaker. So I don't know what you think of that question, and then I would love to hear any other who would like to complete the answer.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Sort of, yeah, probably difficult to answer, put it in 2 words, but I'll connect it to something else, but I think it will connect to the desired answers. When we look at different, I guess, practices of well-being, so to say, we try to measure a lot of things, and of course there's things that we cannot really measure, like it's the subjective experience of the person. And we talk all the time about how our rational mind gets on the way somehow without thinking. It's like we have a phone and we have one app that we need, which is maybe navigation, but then we put all these other apps, and it's just everything we've learned through life, and it just gets on the way of what's real, no, through inverted commas, or what's the truth. And I guess what all these practices, which it could be the massage, the sound, the hypnotherapy, or taking a substance which is going to help start ignoring your own chatter in your mind, is gonna probably, we were born in the planet, in this earth. I guess we have the characteristics of what surrounds us, I guess, at the cosmic level. So we resonate with it. And I guess quieting the mind will allow our own channel to connect with the intuition. I mean, they say the answer is inside you, but I guess it's inside you because you feel it inside you. But you're connecting with your intuition to whatever channels out there where maybe are not visible. And I think they had a sound bath actually with one of our friends, Amber. She's actually amazing. And she has this new gong, which has some harmonics, which are another level. Actually, if you come to London, you're in London, Leonardo, you should give it a go. And then
I'll be there one day.
I told her, I got very relaxed. I'm in a process as well of healing a lot of pain in the body, somatic. And I said, I had a vision where you're playing this gong, and I could see sort of, when you see this picture of the cosmos, like, in fast motion, like all these stars kind of in circles spinning around. And I didn't tell her, but she sent me exactly that picture. She's like, many people are telling me that they're seeing, it's just appearing to them when they have their eyes closed, the cosmos and like the creation and stuff. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I think it all comes down to, quieting the mind. And then that intuition might translate into voices or insights that you can see as voices, or visual as well. So that's how.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it sparks a few ideas that I'd love to touch on after hearing anyone else's approach to this question about the sensorial experiences and visions that go beyond the physical environment when we're healing.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about chakras earlier. The spinal column is actually, our body's an instrument, so when we hear sounds, when we're resonating, our body's resonating like, imagine a cello being the body, and it connects to our pineal gland, this organ in the center, which is our intuition, and that's receiving information from, the universe, which it's not visible to us. And I think none of us really know how to access that, but it's through meditation, all these different therapeutic practices, that you're able to connect to that. And I really felt that deeply, and it's energy moving through us. We're electricity, and it's through that random visions come up and they give us the answer, and it can be different for everybody's different, their bodies, and everyone has different experiences, so they store energy differently. And different therapeutic practices come into your life because you probably need it. I found that lots of people just end up when I was processing my trauma, bioresonance came into my life, you know, and that cured a lot of ailments that I was
So eye
having.
resonance, you said?
Bioresonance is this German,
Bioresonance.
this frequency machine that they put all these different nodes onto you, and they can reverse allergies actually. I had to collect dust from the environment. I was allergic to cats. I was having this really bad reaction on my skin, so I was trying to find out what I could do about it, and she made me collect different samples of things that I was eating, supplements, and she would use this machine, and you can literally test to see how your body is actually reacting to it. Does the body want it, or does it reject it, you know? So, and then through that she was able to reverse certain frequencies, because when we ingest things, it changes the resonant frequencies in our body, and our body starts to react differently to certain things. And I was just heavily allergic to cats. And after I did it, I didn't have any. I used to wake up with like sneezing fits, sore eyes, rubbing them. My skin would itch, and cats like would really irritate my skin and inflame my skin. Since then, I'm not allergic to cats. I don't have these sneezing fits. So, you know, you hear so much of this technology with frequency now, and there's so much ways of applying it that, you know, really tell us something about what sound does to us.
Interesting. Before anyone else goes on, I found this research apparently they compared bioresonance for improving depression, and apparently had a better score in the depression high score. Obviously that's not what you were talking about, you were not talking about depression, but it improves, I guess, well, I don't know what else to say apart from the scale on there. If we were going to say improves mood, but you're saying from your experience it improves your allergies, for instance. But this research shows some better results than the antidepressants, which is pretty interesting. Yeah. We'll have to really go more and read it fully if you're more interested, but yeah. Great. Yeah, the idea that our body is what we inject, what we're exposed to, changes what we are resonant to. That's a very nice idea. I like it. Yeah. Anyone else would like to chip in on that aspect about healing? No, Francisco. Daniel, do you want to say anything about that?
Well, myself, I'm not a visual guy. I never had these experiences. I always wanted to have the experience of finding God, but at the same time, I'm somehow not adept to meditation. I know it was going to benefit me a lot, but I had to find the spaces, the time. At the same time, you have to just do a compromise, and you have to just decide that you need it, because, you know, with busy schedules, and now I have a child, and then with the child it's even much harder to find a peaceful moment. Meaning, I know that path can help me in certainly, and that's why visions in myself. I cannot say anything about it. I can just see from outside, from the physics perspective, from the technical perspective, why that should basically make sense, especially because from falling in against the orthodox medicine, but because we really are in the wrong paradigm. I think knowing that new energies or energetic or resonance in itself. I think probably the word resonance probably the way to put it, because it's resonance in different levels physically, sound, electromagnetic, magnetic, or electric. That probably is going to be open the paradigm of healing, and no visions, but certainly have a vision that it's going to be the future.
Great. Yeah, that's a good way to use vision as well. I just want to wrap up this little question as this question about that the insights that made me think about that learning, the difference between learning that feeds the ego and learning that brings us into an inner coherence or inner relaxation. I mean, it's a question. I don't know how that would be, but what I know in terms of learning from the neuroscience is that there tends to be adrenaline that's activated when you're encoding new information. So that for some people it can be some sort of anxiety. It could be described as a sort of anxiety or excitement, whatever. But adrenaline is a key component to learning. So I don't know, what's the difference between learning that feeds the ego and learning that creates relaxation, inner coherence? Or maybe it's about, after learning, being able to quiet the mind. For instance, when you're sleeping, this is obviously later on during the day, but one of the aspects of sleeping is that you're consolidating what you've learned throughout the day, emotionally and the memories. And so it kind of, one way, simplifies all the experiences into your model of so anyway, your model of seeing the world is simplified during sleep. It kind of gets rid of unnecessary things, and you process things a bit better. So I don't know, the question of is, when should the quieting happen, or is there a learning that's that feeds the ego versus one that doesn't? I don't know if that's something you're willing to answer right now. We can leave it as it is, as a question, and I can finish with one wrap-up question after this.
When does the learning feed the ego? Or
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, do you have an
Summarize
experience
again.
about that? I can't answer it myself, but it's just a question.
I have an experience, because I'm a teacher as well in a school, and
Okay, cool.
and I'm teaching in a Waldorf-Steiner school, and in there they really rely on the sleeping of the in order to learn. They know very well that when I bring something in the classroom, I would not expect they understand until the next day, because part of the learning is happening while they sleep. Meaning the concepts they think, and as you said very well, they go into the inner thinking, and it's not rational, and the concepts somehow explode the next day. And it really happens. You know, I do physics in teaching. I go do the experiment. I don't ask questions yet, and the next day they come with the answer, because they have slept on the experience, and the concepts are being created by them, by their own minds, while they are asleep. And it's very interesting when you put the question, because in reality that happens, and it's being this pedagogy is being in there for 100 years. And it's being given a very good results in the learning process of students, meaning probably in general it happens to us as adults as well, when we go through our busy lives and we learn. You may be overburdened sometimes with experiences we think we are learning, and then we have to slip through it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
It's like the mind's locked it in, memorized it through, stored the information through different brainwave states, right? So that's when you go into the sleep state. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, definitely. That could be a way to know how through the different brainwaves, how the same information is being encoded. Something to explore. So I'd like to finish just with future directions and any aspirations with the Earth Echo. I mean, love to hear what your upcoming performances, installations, or collaborations that you're bringing, and I don't know if you're incorporating some scientific research with it, or any last things you'd like to say to the audience, or any listeners.
Who'd like to go, Eduardo? Daniel?
Yeah, we can share something that we're connecting with quite a few organizations to have our content there for their audience and their users. And along with this, last year we went to the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival, and we used a device to measure the brainwave activity. And that was as we said before, we cannot measure everything, but there's some stuff that is quite obvious, as well as heart rate variability. It shows how the impact of the sound, and also even the scent. Like Phan was using this, I think it was eucalyptus and lavender or something like that. And people were lying down on this armchair, and you could see directly, it was like pushing a button. You could see their brainwave activity, like boom, just entering a state of relaxation. And obviously every person inside is different, and not everybody was the same, but it was a pattern of definitely something positive scanning was happening to them. And then there is much more to it, but I think we don't have another 2 hours to tell you what our plans are.
Sure.
But yeah, hopefully that brings a good example
Nice.
to what we're trying to do.
Fantastic. A little note on that apparently the fastest way to hit your dopamine is through scent. There's neurons that go from your nose straight to your limbic system, and it's the fastest sensors that go to your rewards system. Sorry, Phan, you wanted to mention something?
Yeah, no, just going to add future projects as well. Like we are going to collaborate with Muam, which Daniel can expand on. We're going to further develop ideas with Polygon. Still continue to do the events with them, and I'm looking into installation, which has reactions through heart rate variability, or our brainwave states linked to light as well. So we go back into cymatics. You touched on that briefly. And then we also are working with another tech wellness platform who are looking into research actually what is actually goes into the rest and digest state. So there's like various different sounds that's really successful at doing that. So we can't really talk about who the brand is at the moment. But yeah, that's what we have on the table. But we've got an amazing project happening with Muon, which I can let Daniel expand on.
Yes, this Muon is a choir based in Barcelona. They are experiencing with overtone singing. They have more than 15 years of practice already, and they are arriving to a certain therapeutic state where they really think that where they go when they do their concerts, it's not a concert anymore. It's like, of course, they enjoy a lot singing themselves. You can see that, but as well, it has an effect on the audience as well. And the overtone singing has this particularity that, in fact, it develops an inner way of hearing that you have to hear things that are there, but in higher partials. Basically, you are hearing a much complex structure, sonic structure that you will hear to music. When you hear music, you hear an instrument playing a melody. It's kind of like more abstract, more rational. But there, when you enter in that state, because really literally are very long songs, very lot of partials and very rich sonic experience, then they enter a certain state of trance, and then the audience somehow follows that state. And we are really going into work with them without our approach of adding nature and adding our sound healing instruments to just create a new track, and eventually a new event as well, where we may invite them to collaborate with us as an installation or a concert, or even eventually with a Polygon. We are going to see if that can be articulated, but we are really looking forward to work with them in the next months.
Amazing. That sounds really exciting. Eduardo, you're going to say it?
Oh yeah, just on the music collaboration, I don't know if we mentioned this already, we collaborated with Robert Koch, the German composer. He's got amazing tracks. He's remixed some of our content, we're remixing one of his, and we made one piece together for Polygon, which we will share in a few channels because we cannot share it everywhere, but we'll definitely send you a link for you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, we can put it in the description of this YouTube video as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so people can get in contact with you through this website and learn more through your YouTube channel. And yeah, I mean, this has been a fascinating discussion, and it's been a pleasure to have you here sharing your work and your experiences and your vision. And sounds like a lot of exciting projects are coming up. I'm very curious about the brainwave research and heart rate variability. Any results about that, more than welcome to learn about it and discuss about it. And thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. For me, it's been an honor to have you and discuss about this. Thank you. If you have anything else to say, more than welcome.
We're just very grateful and appreciate you having us and inviting us to share our story here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leonardo.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Take care. Have a good weekend. See you soon.
Ciao.
You too. Bye.
Ciao.